If you're looking for the best way to play xCloud on iOS, I think I found the solution. And that solution comes in the form of hardware known as the backbone, which you can't see here because the contrast between the camera and everything else. Ooh, if I shift it there a little bit, you can see it. Anyways, it comes in this nice box, looks like a Nintendo Switch without the screen, and what you do is you put your mobile device, which has to be an iOS device, and more on that later, in between, lock it in place, and you are good to go. Let's roll some B-roll here as we talk through this. So, the backbone is a device that is going to make cloud gaming from Microsoft, or honestly just gaming on iOS or Stadia or Luna, whatever you are playing, significantly better. First of all, this is an iOS only device for now. I suspect that they will eventually support Android, but it uses the native Lightning port, which means there is no Bluetooth latency involved here. And what you do is you pull the two halves apart, and then you put your phone right there in the middle, sandwich it shut, and as long as it's running the latest version of iOS, or a newer version of iOS, I should say, it will support this controller natively, and you can use it with xCloud or Microsoft Cloud Gaming, however you want. Here is a demo of me using Cloud Gaming for Microsoft natively with the controller here, and it's quite good. Now, if you're looking for a full video on this experience, you can find one on this channel, but on this video, we are specifically focusing on the hardware that I used to create this. Now, Backbone is offering a lot here, and at first I was like, hey, this just looks like a Razer Kishi or something like that plugs in natively, but they're actually trying to do something a little bit different. If you see that little red button down in the bottom, what that does is it actually launches their application, and you might write this off because it's like, hey, it's an application, I just want to play xCloud, and that's perfectly fine. But it actually does offer a decent amount of functionality. They're actually building a platform that allows chat. It has a friends list. It allows you to find other games, specifically like in the App Store, that make use of a controller functionality. So don't like completely sleep on it, but if you're here for just for cloud gaming from Xbox for the best peripheral, then you may not use it too much. But on the other side of the controller, there's also a little button with a square on it that allows you to more effectively capture screenshots and video, which makes it easier for sharing moments. One of the primary issues actually with mobile gaming is creating content that can be used and viewed by other people. And so that button, which you can see I uncovered there, now that I move my meat sticks, it allows you to do that more effectively. But from a controller experience, this is, I've used quite a few. I've used the Razer Kishi, I've used Bluetooth setups, and I've used a few others. But when it comes to iOS, this is by far the best experience so far as of the recording of this video. Now, there's a couple things to note. This is an unapologetically plastic device. It is $99, and you also are going to have to take your phone out of the case. Now, that is pretty annoying to have to do, but I understand why you kind of got to do it, because there's so many different cases out on the market. Making something that would work with every single case isn't quite doable yet. Now remember, this is a V1 product from a startup, and the backbone for a V1 product is quite good, I will fully admit. There are a couple concerns, if you will. The joysticks, or the analog sticks, if you will, they don't inspire the most amount of confidence in the world. They absolutely work. I didn't have any stick drift with my unit, but analog sticks have always been known for that. The buttons, the X, Y, A, B, and all that stuff, pretty tactile, but again, completely plastic, and it's not a premium material device by any means. That being said, it is still way better than trying to use a Bluetooth controller, and also, it kind of feels right. It feels like a Nintendo Switch, but in this case, I'm running Xbox content, and I'm playing Minecraft Dungeons here, which is the pretty much the only way you should really play cloud gaming right now from Microsoft, or with these platformers in this type of an arrangement. Don't try to play like first party shooters and all that stuff, because you will be sorely disappointed. But there are triggers up top right where you expect them. There are also shoulder buttons as well, and they're all tactile and they all work. I wouldn't put them into like the Xbox Elite series form and functionality by any means, and considering that controller alone can cost over $150, not surprising. This is much more of a standard Xbox controller sort of feel, maybe even a little bit less than that. I would say like maybe a high quality third-party Xbox controller is kind of like the fit and finish quality you're going to get here. Now, there's a couple things to know as well, because this is coming from a startup and not an established company. You get two primary benefits and concerns, if you will. The primary benefit is that they're putting all of their energy into this, all of their energy into making their app better, making the experience better, and making sure that this is just a really good experience because their entire company is on the line to sell a bunch of these things. The other side of that is that it is a startup, right? Startups go bust. I mean, it happens. Gaming startups, just startups in general, are extremely hard, extremely complicated, and they could go out of business. I mean, that is a plausible thing that you have to bring up when talking about this. That being said, the hardware will continue to work in the unfortunate circumstance that this company does not find its footing or get acquired. Now, the application, the additional flavor, if you will, of the app and the video editing stuff might go away if the cloud backend is not there, but the hardware should always work as expected. So that is a good news. So just keep that in mind before you go and spend $100 on something like this. That being said, the benefit here is that it's not only working with Xbox Cloud Gaming. Like I said, it will work with any iOS or most iOS games. I don't want to say any, but it'll work with a wide variety of iOS games because it is a native controller at the end of the day. It just so happens I'm focusing on Xbox Cloud Gaming because for me, that is where I'm going to be using it and will continue to use it. Now, you have to compare this to something like the Razer Kishi because that is the other dominant player in the industry. The biggest difference right now, at least from my perspective, is that the backbone isn't available for Android. So if you're on an Android device and you want to use this, you can't. You've got to either wait for them to come out or you should go grab that Razer Kishi because it is a pretty good device. I just honestly think that the backbone might have a little bit of an edge over it because of that Xbox, that integration. They kind of got that nice seamless experience. So that orange button, you can see it right there, and then just the video editing and capture button, they're differentiators. That's the best way to describe it. I don't really have any major concerns about the buttons like falling off or anything like that. I got to give these guys some credit for a V1 offering out of the gate. They definitely did their homework and really studied the market. Now, other things to consider too, this is available in the US, but the Asian market is huge for mobile gaming and it is massively competitive. And you cannot write off the growth in mobile gaming. You really can't. It is the next frontier, or maybe it is the frontier right now, depending on where you live, because it keeps growing in popularity. I mean, there's tournaments for Call of Duty Mobile. It's getting bigger. So I think the Backbone company is entering the market at a right time with a good product, and they stand a reasonable chance of potentially shaking things up here with their solution, provided they can keep selling it, right? That's the key. You got to keep selling the hardware, and that will help them, move further into other markets. If you came to me and said, Brad, should I buy this? I would honestly tell you, yeah, like you should, because if you are even casually gaming on your phone, this will make it a better experience and it will give you a competitive edge, definitely over anybody who is using the on-screen controls. Like that, it's really well done. Like you can see how it snaps back together here. It's again plastic, but it's well made and really well thought out. Like when they said, "Hey, we want to send you this for review," I was like, "Okay, this is just going to be like a thing you pop your phone in there, and then it's done." But it's really not. Like the entire ecosystem that they have built with their application, with the screenshotting and recording functionality, it's not something that I think is going to like totally change the world. But if you're comparing this device against one of there's tons of Bluetooth ones that are now out there and hitting my inbox every day asking for reviews. They went the additional step to give you a more reasons to buy the Backbone. I know I'm being like super overly optimistic about this, but they did a good job. They really did. I just wish that the analog sticks were maybe a little bit stiffer or potentially even swappable, because I do have slight concerns about the long-term durability of that. The buttons, you can kind of hear, it's not satisfying, but at the end of the day, it gets the job done. So this thing is $100. It is available now. You can go get it. There'll be playbackbone.com. You can also find links down to the full written review below. But what it boils down to at the end of the day, like, is if you're going to be serious about gaming on your phone and you're going to be really playing a lot of Xbox content that was designed, let's be honest here, designed for analog stick input, you're going to want something like this. You can certainly get a flavor for how it will work by by connecting a Bluetooth controller, because the latest controllers do support Bluetooth with the Xbox, so you can get a flavor for how it's going to be. But once you're ready to kind of jump in and say, hey, I'm going to be a little bit more serious and take this on the road, this is a good option. I also believe this packs much better into a bag just because of look at its thin profile. It's relatively thin. You can just drop it in the bag. I don't really have a lot of concerns like this thing being floating around in your bag and breaking. I can't say that about all of the units that I have touched. Not Backbone, but just gaming peripherals in general. So you can just toss it in the bag. It's there to go. You do have to take your phone off the case, slap it in, and it's up and running with relatively little friction. So end of the day, I think this is probably the best way to play xCloud or Xbox Cloud Gaming on your iPhone without much hesitation. Obviously, long term, we'll have to see what other players come to the market. But right now, I think Backbone probably has the competitive advantage.